So we're asking James a couple of questions about how we can improve our methodologies, particularly when we are investigating perceptions. Now, I know a lot of you guys wanted to do surveys, and it is a totally valid method, but I also want you to consider what other methods you could use to complement that. So have you got any thoughts on that, James?
So I think what's worth thinking about is when you are doing surveys, you are asking people. So, you know, that is a perfectly legitimate way of doing it. There are kind of considerations with surveys. One of the big considerations, regardless of when you're doing it, is an appropriate sampling strategy. It can be quite hard to decide how and when you're going to approach people. And of course, there are difficulties at the moment that might make people kind of less willing to talk to you. So what you want to think about is then, if you're thinking about people and how people perceive a place, is there then a knock-on to maybe how people use a place? And I think thinking about, are there any fieldwork techniques that might link to how people use a place and interact with a place? So sticking with people, there's the idea of kind of non-participant observations, which is something about how people use a place, how many people are in a place with pedestrian counts. That will kind of give you a bit of an idea. Where are people going? You can map people's flows through town. Are there areas that are particularly used and people that aren't? And you could maybe kind of then infer that those that aren't well used are possibly, people perceive them as less good. There's a little bit of a jump there, but you know, that's fine as a geographer. Kind of drawing a conclusion is what we do. Also thinking about what that means if an area is not perceived to be very good. Is that going to have a knock-on impact? Is that going to have a knock-on economic impact? And is there a way in which you can measure that? You know, if an area is in economic decline, there are ways in which you could measure that, both quantitatively and qualitatively, which would then tell you about the fact that maybe it's not very well perceived, that it has an impact there. If an area is not, we're talking about spiral of decline, that's a human geography term, but actually, you know, if an area is not perceived very well, then potentially it's not going to be very well looked after. If you have the idea that, say for example, an area is being left, something like managed retreat, and actually that is not being seen by people who live in the area as a particularly good choice, then you might notice that people have got things against that. So you might have to take photos that show, you know, stop this, stop that, or you might see that areas have become abandoned and actually people have left areas, and you could do that through kind of photographs or kind of mapping land use. So there's lots of ways in which you can look at how people are interacting with the area. So I think that's where I would be going, other than just surveys.
So perhaps things like property prices
absolutely.
as well,
Yep.
or planning applications.
Yes, that would be really good, yeah.
Those sorts of things that indicate whether or not the area is being developed further.
Exactly. Is it an area of growth or an area of
Yeah.
decline? And I think that's kind of where I'd be kind of thinking about as well as
Great.
people.
Thank you so much.